Imagine a world where the earth itself whispers secrets of creation, where the moon's gentle glow cradles the seeds of all life, and where a forgotten force, soft as a river's curve, yet unyielding as the roots of an ancient oak, holds the key to reshaping your very soul. What if I told you that this force has been silenced for millennia, buried beneath layers of stone idols and iron swords, waiting for you to awaken it? Not with thunderous roars or conquests of the mind, but with the subtle alchemy of surrender and flow. This is the hidden power of the sacred feminine, a primordial energy that doesn't conquer, but conceives, doesn't dominate, but dissolves illusions to birth the new. For too long, we've wandered in the shadows of a masculine-driven cosmos, chasing linear paths of logic and control, only to find our spirits parched and our hearts armored against the wild, intuitive dance of existence. The sacred feminine is no mere archetype or feminist rallying cry. She is the veiled priestess of the universe, the eternal womb from which galaxies spiral into being and souls emerge from the void. In ancient tongues, from the Sumerian hymns to Inanna's descent into the underworld, to the Gnostic whispers of Sophia's divine wisdom, she was revered as the architect of mystery, the weaver of dreams that stitch the fabric of reality. Yet, in our modern frenzy of algorithms and ambition, we've exiled her to the margins, mistaking her quiet potency for weakness. Today, we reclaim her. In this journey through esoteric veils, we'll unearth her historical echoes in forgotten temples and sacred scrolls, unravel her core mysteries as the twin flame to the divine masculine, and arm you with rituals that invite her essence into your daily breath. Prepare to feel the stirrings of something ancient within, a power that heals fractured lineages, ignites creative fires long dimmed, and guides you toward a wholeness where strength blooms from vulnerability. The sacred feminine isn't coming to save you. She's already here, pulsing in your veins, eager to be remembered. Will you listen? Step with me into her embrace, and let's awaken what the world has tried to forget. Whispers from the cradle of time echo through the cracked stones of Göbekli Tepe, where 12,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers carved pillars etched with serpents and boars, symbols not of war, but of the earth's voluptuous fertility, guarded by feminine forms that birthed the first stirrings of civilization. Here, in the twilight before history's dawn, the sacred feminine was no abstract ideal, but a living pulse, the great mother whose curves mirrored the rolling hills and whose mysteries demanded reverence rather than conquest. These ancient architects knew her as the void from which form emerges, the dark womb that devours the old to gestate the new, much like the monsoon rains that flood the parched earth only to coax forth emerald life. Journey further, to the sun-baked ziggurats of Sumer, where Inanna, the queen of heaven and earth, descended into the underworld, not as a victim, but as a sovereign initiating the cycle of death and rebirth. In the epic poem inscribed on clay tablets around 2000 BCE, she strips away her regal adornments layer by layer, mirroring the soul's surrender to shadow. Her descent teaches us that the sacred feminine is the alchemist of transformation. She who willingly plunges into chaos, disrobes the ego's illusions, and rises renewed, her power amplified by the very trials that would shatter lesser forces. This wasn't mere mythology. It was the philosophical bedrock of Mesopotamian wisdom, where priestesses, known as Entu, channeled her essence in rituals of sacred union, blending the masculine thrust of the sky god Anu with her receptive depths to ensure cosmic harmony. To ignore her was to court famine. To honor her was to invite abundance, a truth etched into the very hydrology of the Tigris and Euphrates. across the Mediterranean, in the shadowed groves of Eleusis, the Eleusinian mysteries veiled her even deeper. For over 2 millennia, from 1600 BCE to the edicts of Christian emperors in the 4th century CE, initiates gathered under the cover of night to partake in the kykeon, a brew of barley and entheogens that unlocked visions of Demeter and Persephone. Demeter, the grieving mother whose sorrow plunged the world into winter, embodied the feminine's raw grief as a forge for empathy. Persephone, her daughter ravished by Hades yet ascending as queen of the dead, revealed the erotic undercurrent of surrender, the dark rapture where loss transmutes into sovereignty. These rites weren't escapist fantasies, but profound initiations into the Hermetic principle of correspondence. As above, so below, with the earth's cycles mirroring the soul's eternal return. Philosophers like Plato, veiled in allegory, drew from these mysteries, whispering of the anima mundi, the world soul, a feminine intelligence animating all matter, urging humanity toward gnosis through intuitive communion rather than rational dissection. Turn eastward to the Tantric scrolls of ancient India, where the Vedas, composed around 1500 BCE, hymn Devi as the supreme Shakti, the dynamic power that dances upon Shiva's stillness. In the Upanishads, she is Prakriti, the creative matrix weaving Maya into manifestation, her formless essence birthing the 10,000 things from a single breath. Here, the sacred feminine transcends gender, becoming the philosophical axis of non-duality, neither wholly immanent nor transcendent, but the bridge where opposites dissolve in ecstatic union. The Kama Sutra, often misconstrued as mere sensuality, unveils her as the art of Maithuna, sacred coupling that alchemizes desire into enlightenment, teaching that true power lies not in suppression, but in the fluid embrace of longing's waves. Even in the hermetic gloom of Alexandria's libraries, where Hermes Trismegistus fused Egyptian and Greek esoterica in the emerald tablet, her echo resounds. The principle of polarity declares masculine and feminine as twin poles of one current, but it is she, the receptive, the intuitive, who holds the key to polarity's resolution. Gnostic texts, like those unearthed at Nag Hammadi in 1945, resurrect Sophia, the fallen wisdom goddess whose error birthed the demiurge's flawed creation, yet whose redemption illuminates the path to the pleroma, the divine fullness. She is the hidden spark in exile, urging us to reclaim the divine spark within, not through conquest, but through compassionate reintegration of the shadow. This suppression, however, was no accident of fate. As patriarchal empires rose, from the bronze spears of the Hittites to the edicts of Constantine, her temples crumbled, her priestesses silenced, recast as witches or harlots in the grimoires of fear. The Inquisition's pyres, fueled by a one-sided logos, sought to excise her wildness, leaving us with a spiritual inheritance starved of depth. Yet, in the cracks of history, she persists. In the Cathar whispers of the troubadours, in the alchemical rose of the Rosicrucians, in the voodoo loos of the African diaspora. Her philosophical significance. She restores balance to the esoteric scales, reminding us that wisdom without heart is barren, that enlightenment demands the courage to feel the universe's tender underbelly. And herein lies a practical whisper from the ancients. Begin by honoring her in the small rhythms of your day. Light a candle at dusk, not to pray for favors, but to sit in silent witness to the fading light's surrender, a microcosm of her eternal cycle. Feel the grief of Persephone in your own losses, and let it soften the armor around your heart. For in reclaiming her history, we don't just learn, we remember. We become the living scroll, inscribed with the ink of intuition, ready to author a world reborn from her womb. The hidden power of the sacred feminine, unveiling the ancient force that balances creation with intuitive wisdom and heals the soul's deepest wounds. What no one told you about shadow work. Discover the occult ritual that transforms your inner darkness into a source of unbreakable spiritual strength. The real meaning of the third eye. Explore how activating this chakra unlocks visions of the unseen realms and rewires your reality. First steps in astral projection. Practical techniques to leave your body and journey through ethereal planes with confidence and control. Why alchemy was kept secret. The forbidden art of turning lead into gold that mirrors your soul's evolution from base to divine. The effects of moon phases on your aura, how lunar cycles amplify or drain your energy field, and simple ways to harness them for manifestation. Unveiling the Akashic records. Access the cosmic library of all souls' histories to rewrite your karmic patterns forever. The monk who mastered lucid dreaming, his ancient Tibetan method to command dreams and bend waking life to your subconscious will. What lying does to your third eye. The spiritual corrosion of deceit and rituals to cleanse and reopen your intuitive gateway. The best-kept secret of Hermetic magic. How the 7 principles shape spells that align the universe with your deepest intentions. The spiritual dangers of social media. Occult insights into how digital scrolls steal your soul energy and ways to reclaim your sovereignty. First steps in rune divination. Hands-on, Nordic symbols to predict fates and invoke ancestral powers in daily guidance. The miracle of spontaneous human combustion. Esoteric explanations of inner fires igniting and how to safely channel your Kundalini without risk. What no one told you about past lives. Hypnotic regressions revealing how old souls sabotage your present and keys to liberation. The hidden truth about crop circles. Sacred geometry. Messages from star beings that encode blueprints for humanity's next evolution. Why Nostradamus predicted the end times wrong. Decoding his quatrains to understand true apocalyptic shifts as opportunities for collective awakening. The effects of crystals on your chakras. Vibrational alignments that supercharge your energy centers for healing and psychic expansion. The witch who cursed an entire village. Her grimoire's revenge spells and ethical modern adaptations for personal justice without backlash. Unveiling the philosopher's stone beyond gold, the inner elixir that grants immortality through alchemical self-transmutation. The real path to shamanic journeying. Drumbeat voyages to spirit allies that retrieve lost soul fragments and ignite profound healings. Now that we've traced her footsteps through the dust of forgotten epochs, let us descend into the heart of her mystery, the sacred feminine not as a distant deity, but as the living current coursing through your blood, the unseen hand that cups the flame of your becoming. Picture her as the ocean's vast underbelly. Surface waves crash with masculine fury, but beneath lies an abyssal stillness, pregnant with the pressure that forges pearls from grit. She is this depth, the yin to yang's bright arc, the receptive void that invites creation not by force, but by the magnetic pull of longing. In esoteric lore, she embodies the principle of Bina on the Kabbalistic tree of life, the Great Mother, the womb of understanding, where raw potential crystallizes into form. Yet, to grasp her is to court paradox. She is both the devouring Kali, black tongue lapping at time's edge, and the nurturing Isis, whose tears flood the Nile to green the desert. Her power hides in this duality, teaching that true potency blooms from the fertile soil of what we dare not name. At her core lies the essence of receptivity, not passive waiting, like a leaf adrift on indifferent winds, but an active yielding, a deliberate opening that becomes the gateway for divine influx. Consider the metaphor of the lotus. Rooted in mud's obscurity, it unfurls not by straining against the water, but by surrendering to the sun's kiss, petals parting to reveal a hidden sun at its heart. So too does the sacred feminine invite us to root in our shadows, to allow the muck of unhealed wounds to nourish our ascent. In Jungian depths, she manifests as the anima, the soul image that haunts men's dreams and beckons them toward wholeness, whispering forgotten languages of feeling amid the clamor of reason. For women, she stirs as the inner priestess, urging reclamation of the intuitive knowing suppressed by societal edicts of practicality. But make no mistake, this is no gendered exclusive. She pulses in all vessels, a universal elixir that dissolves the illusion of separation, reminding us that the divine spark ignites brightest in communion. Delve deeper, and we encounter her as the architect of cycles, the eternal spiral where endings coil into beginnings, defying the linear tyranny of clocks and calendars. Unlike the solar masculine, which strides in straight arrows toward goals, she dances in moon's phases, waxing toward fullness, a gathering of dreams into manifestation, waning into dark, a holy composting of what no longer serves. This cyclical wisdom is encoded in the body itself, menstrual rhythms syncing with lunar tides, a biological hymn to her sovereignty. In shamanic traditions of the Amazon, ayahuasca visions reveal her as Yage, the vine of the soul, whose bitter brew strips illusions to reveal the web of interconnection. Every thread a life, every knot a shared destiny. Here, her power manifests as relational alchemy, transmuting isolation into empathy, conflict into co-creation. Imagine two rivers merging, not one swallowing the other in dominance, but their waters entwining, carving canyons that neither could alone. This is her gift, the art of holy entanglement, where boundaries soften without erasure, fostering a tapestry of souls woven from vulnerability's silk. Yet, her hidden strength lies in nurturing the unseen, the liminal spaces where potential simmers before eruption. Think of the seed in winter's grip. Invisible, unyielding to frost's bite, it harbors the blueprint of a 1,000-branch oak. The sacred feminine is this guardian of latencies, the midwife to miracles that logic dismisses as improbable. In the Hermetic Emerald Tablet, her voice echoes in the axiom, "That which is below is like that which is above," but it is she who ensures the below, the intuitive undercurrent, mirrors and magnifies the celestial. Without her, the masculine's fire burns erratic, consuming without renewal. With her, it tempers into a forge for eternal renewal. Esoteric texts like the Zohar pulse with her as Shekinah, the indwelling presence of God, exiled yet ever present, calling the sparks of divinity homeward through acts of quiet devotion. She teaches that power isn't hoarded, but hospitably offered, a chalice brimming, overflowing to quench the parched collective. To illuminate this, let us weave an analogy from the alchemist's crucible. The masculine is the spark, the volatile prima materia hurled into flame. But the sacred feminine is the gentle heat of the Athanor, the philosophical egg that incubates dissolution into sublimation. In the Negredo phase, she holds space for the soul's blackening, the ego's fierce resistance melting into humble broth. No rushing the putrefaction. She knows that from rot rises the white dove of albedo, purity born of patience. This is profoundly practical. In your own life, When ambition's blade dulls against unyielding circumstance, it is her whisper to pause, to breathe into the pause, allowing insight to percolate like dew through stone. I've seen this in the quiet vigils of modern mystics, women and men alike, who, amid corporate grind or relational tempests, invoke her through simple breath work, inhaling the void's invitation, exhaling control's clenched fist. The result? A softening that invites synchronicities, as if the universe, long indifferent, now conspires in tender conspiracy. But her power extends to the erotic core, often veiled in prudish shrouds, yet central to esoteric awakening. She is the Shakti fire coiled at the spine's base, not mere sensuality, but the primal thrum of creation's yes, the tantric pulse where body and spirit entwine in ecstatic gnosis. In the Song of Songs, that biblical erotic psalm, she sings through the bride's voice. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, a metaphor for the soul's union with the divine lover, where longing becomes the ladder to transcendence. This isn't hedonism unbound. It's sacred eros, the force that propels evolution, birthing art, innovation, and epiphanies from desire's forge. Repress her, and vitality withers. Embrace her, and life becomes a lover's quarrel with the ordinary, each moment ripe with possibility. As we hover at this threshold, consider a lesser-told facet, her role as the shadow weaver. While the masculine often projects outward in quests for light, she dives inward, befriending the crone's cackle in our fears, the serpent's hiss in our rages. In voodoo's Erzuli, she appears as both the radiant beauty and the drowned sorrow, teaching that wholeness demands wedding the full spectrum, tears as potent as triumphs. This integration is her supreme sorcery, turning wounds into wellsprings, exile into elder wisdom. For in her embrace, we learn that the sacred feminine doesn't merely heal. She rewilds, restoring the feral grace that civilizations have tamed from our bones. Pause here, seeker, and let these threads settle in your marrow. We've unveiled her as receptivity's queen, cycle's guardian, unseen nurturer, and Eros's flame, but her depths unfold further still. In the next unveiling, we'll plumb the nuances of her union with the divine masculine, the contradictions that sharpen her blade, and the esoteric keys that unlock her in your now. Feel her stir. That's the first quickening. Honor it. The real meaning of synchronicity. Unlock the hermetic signals from the universe that guide your soul's hidden path to destiny. First steps in sigil magic. Simple drawings charged with intent that bend reality to manifest your deepest desires effortlessly. What no one told you about astral cords. The invisible energy ties draining your life force and rituals to sever them for total freedom. The hidden power of plant spirits. How entheogenic allies from ancient shamans whisper forgotten wisdom for healing and vision quests. Why meditation alone won't awaken you. The occult truth that true enlightenment demands shadow integration beyond silent sitting. The effects of salt baths on your aura. Ancient purification rites using sea minerals to dissolve psychic blockages and restore energetic flow. Unveiling the void in lucid dreams techniques to embrace nothingness in sleep realms for accessing infinite creative potential. The monk who communed with demons, his forbidden Tibetan methods to ally with shadow entities for unparalleled spiritual mastery. What lying does to your Akashic record. The karmic stains of deception and cleansings to rewrite your soul's eternal ledger. The best-kept secret of Enochian magic. John Dee's angelic language decoded for summoning celestial guides in modern invocations. The spiritual dangers of unresolved grief. How bottled sorrow summons entities, and steps to alchemize it into profound empathic power. First steps in tarot shadow work. Card spreads, revealing your subconscious wounds to transmute pain into intuitive strength. The miracle of the bleeding host. Medieval Eucharistic anomalies explained as portals to divine feminine mysteries and blood magic. Why Atlantis sank. According to Edgar Cayce, lost crystal technologies and soul lessons from the cataclysm that echo in today's awakenings. The effects of incense on spirit guides. Aromatic invocations that strengthen bonds with allies for clearer messages and protection. The Witch's Guide to Dream Incubation. Temple sleep rituals to summon prophetic visions and solve life's enigmas in the night. Unveiling the Merkaba vehicle. Ancient Egyptian light body activation for interdimensional travel and soul ascension. The real path to past life. Regression. Hypnotic journeys through the veil to heal ancestral traumas, blocking your current evolution. What no one told you about geomancy. Earth divination using sand and dots to forecast fates with hermetic precision and insight. The hidden truth about the philosopher's egg. Alchemical vessel, secrets for hatching inner gold from the chaos of personal transformation. The real meaning of the void. Discover how embracing nothingness becomes the ultimate portal to boundless spiritual expansion and self-realization. First steps in crystal grids. Simple layouts using gemstones to channel energy flows for protection, healing, and rapid manifestation. What no one told you about. Ley lines uncover Earth's hidden energy veins and techniques to align with them for amplified intuition and synchronicities. The hidden dangers of ego death. Explore the shadowy risks of profound ego dissolution and safeguards to emerge stronger from the abyss. Why ancient Egypt revered the scarab, the beetle's alchemical symbolism, as a guide for rebirth and navigating life's cycles of transformation. The effects of chanting on your chakras. How vibrational mantras unlock and balance your energy centers for emotional release and higher awareness. Unveiling the starseed codes. Decode the cosmic signals, awakening your extraterrestrial origins and activating latent psychic abilities. The monk who conquered time. Tibetan dream yoga secrets to manipulate time perception and access past-future wisdom streams. What deception does to your aura. The energetic fractures caused by lies and rituals to mend and fortify your light body against betrayal. The best-kept secret of the labyrinth. Walking meditative mazes as a tool for shadow integration and direct communion with the divine labyrinth within. The spiritual cost of forgetting ancestors. How neglecting lineage invites karmic loops and ceremonies to honor them for ancestral empowerment. First steps in pendulum. Divination. Basic dowsing methods to receive yes-no guidance from your higher self and spirit guides. The miracle of the dancing plague. Medieval mass hysteria as a collective possession and lessons for modern emotional contagion. Why the Rosicrucians guarded. Rose crosses esoteric emblems of inner marriage and practices to unite opposites for alchemical enlightenment. The effects of smudging on entities, clearing rituals with herbs to banish unwanted spirits and reclaim your sacred space's sovereignty. The Sorcerer's Guide to Glamour's Magic Illusion, spells from folklore to enhance charisma and bend perceptions without ethical harm. Unveiling the heart chakra's dark side. Healing suppressed love wounds that manifest as codependency and unlocking unconditional compassion. The real path to astral doorways. Safe entry points into other realms through visualization and protective invocations for explorers. What no one told you about familiars. Animal spirit companions in witchcraft and how to bond with them for enhanced spellwork and insight. The hidden flames of inner alchemy, turning base emotions into spiritual gold through daily transmutations inspired by forgotten grimoires. As the embers of her receptive fire glow in your awareness, let us now weave deeper into the labyrinth of her essence, where the sacred feminine reveals her subtler sorceries, the intricate dances of union, the thorns of contradiction that hone her blade, and the veiled keys that unlock her within the hush of your ordinary hours. Envision her not as solitary queen, but as the eternal bride in a cosmic hieros gamos, the sacred marriage where she entwines with the divine masculine in a tango of tension and release. This union is no saccharine merger, but a thunderous polarity, his solar spear piercing her lunar chalice, birthing the androgyne, the rebus of alchemical lore, the winged hermaphrodite who transcends duality. In the Sufi poetry of Rumi, she murmurs through the reed flute's wail, I am the reed from which the flute is hollowed, her emptiness the vessel for his melody, yet ever the composer of the song's wild cadence. Without this interplay, creation stagnates. He provides the arrow, she the bow's unyielding curve. Esoterically, this mirrors the caduceus, twin serpents coiled around the staff of Hermes, her sinuous flow tempering his linear ascent, spiraling toward the pineal crown where opposites kiss in silence. Yet, herein lies a profound nuance, often shrouded in the mists of misunderstanding. The sacred feminine's power thrives in contradiction, a divine dissonance that shatters complacency. She is simultaneously the virgin and the whore, the innocent Persephone plucking poppies in eternal spring, and the crone Hecate with torch and crossroads fang, devouring illusions under moonless skies. This paradox isn't flaw, but forge, her strength forged in the friction of seeming opposites, much like the diamond born from carbon's crush beneath eons of pressure. In Taoist scrolls, she flows as the uncarved block, Wu Wei's effortless action that acts without acting, yielding to the river's bend to carve canyons deeper than force ever could. Contradiction arises when we cling to her as soft alone, ignoring her ferocity. The Celtic Morrigan, raven-winged harbinger who washes warriors' armor in blood rivers, not to destroy, but to cull the weak, ensuring the tribe's resilient bloom. She demands we embrace this. The mother who rocks the cradle with one hand while wielding the sickle with the other, harvesting what ripens for release. In modern psyches, this manifests as the inner tug-of-war, nurturing dreams while slaying self-sabotage, teaching that her hidden power is the courage to hold both grief's deluge and joy's spark without flinching. Delve into a lesser-known aspect, drawn from the fringes of Gnostic Apocrypha, her role as the cosmic errorist, the divine fool whose falls propel evolution's spiral. Sophia's tumble from the pleroma, birthing the flawed archons of matter, wasn't hubris but holy mischief, a necessary rupture to infuse the void with longing's gravity, drawing fragmented souls back to wholeness. This echoes in chaos magic, where she appears as the glitch in the matrix, the synchronicity that defies causality, reminding us that creation favors the crooked path over the straight. Unlike the masculine's quest for order, her disorder is generative entropy, the storm that scatters seeds across barren fields, the fever dream that ferrets buried truths. Consider the folklore of the Selkie, seal women who shed skins for human love, only to reclaim them in tidal fury, their exile a bridge between worlds, their rage a reclamation of wild sovereignty. This nuance warns against romanticizing her. Ignore the error, and we stagnate in perfection's prison. Honor it, and we dance with uncertainty as the midwife to miracles. To ground these abstractions, Let us illuminate with examples from the esoteric tapestry. In the Yoruba pantheon, Yemaya, ocean mother with mermaid tail and 7 seas in her skirt, embodies her as protector and punisher, cradling fishermen in gentle waves, yet capsizing the arrogant with rogue swells. Her devotees invoke her through Dilagoon shell divinations, reading patterns in the throne cowries as her intuitive oracles, a practice that reveals her power as pattern weaver in chaos, not predicting the future, but co-authoring it through surrendered listening. Similarly, in the Andean cosmovision, Pachamama, the Earth Mother, swallows offerings into her fertile maw, demanding reciprocity. Neglect her, and earthquakes rumble as reminders of imbalance. These archetypes underscore a key insight. Her essence is ecological, relational, power derived not from isolation, but from the web's quiver when one strand is plucked. In your life, this might appear as the dark night that follows breakthrough, where gains dissolve into void, only to resurface refined. It's her contradiction at work, the alchemical solve et coagula, dissolve and congeal, ensuring growth's spiral rather than line. Further, her hidden layers unfold in the somatic realm, where she inscribes wisdom not in tomes, but in the body's remembering. The sacred feminine speaks through the pelvic bowl, that chalice of creation where Kundalini slumbers, her serpent uncoiling in shudders of release rather than conquest. In the ancient Egyptian mysteries of Hathor, cow-horned goddess of joy and vengeance, she dances the sistrum's rattle to shake stagnant energies loose, her music the vibration that aligns the Kai, life force, with Ba, soul flight. This somatic gnosis counters the disembodied spirituality of patriarchal dogmas, insisting that enlightenment pulses in the hip's sway, the breath's diaphragmatic sigh. A profound example arises in the Minoan frescoes of Crete, circa 1600 BCE, depicting priestesses in ecstatic leap, arms arched like bull horns, embodying her as kinetic prayer, where movement becomes invocation, the body, the temple where heaven kisses earth. Today, this translates to practices like intuitive dance, allowing hips to circle without choreography, inviting her flow to unravel knots of suppressed rage or shame, birthing visions from the viscera. Addressing contradictions head-on, we confront the shadow of her suppression. How millennia of exile have twisted her into caricature, the hysterical hysteric, the seductive temptress, fueling a collective wound that manifests as burnout, disconnection, or ecological ravage. Yet, she is the great restorer. Her power in forgiveness is radical act, not absolution without accountability, but the compassionate witnessing that transmutes perpetrator into kin. In the Buddhist Tara, green savior who quells 8 fears, she emerges as swift action within stillness, her mantra, Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha, a sonic key dissolving terror's grip. This nuance heals the split. Her feminine, not weak, but the supple strength of bamboo bending in gales, unbroken where oaks splinter. For the seeker, this means navigating the ego's recoil when vulnerability feels like treason. Her whisper counters. Surrender is strategy, the judo flip of the soul. As insights cascade like a hidden spring unearthed, consider one final esoteric thread. Her as the dream architect, the nocturnal weaver whose tapestries foretell and forge waking worlds. In Aboriginal Dreamtime, she pulses as the ancestral women who sang the land into being, their songlines mapping the dreaming where past, present, and future entwine. This reveals her temporal fluidity, power unbound by time's arrow, allowing retrocausal magic, healing ancestral rifts to rewrite bloodline legacies. In your nights, she might appear as recurring motifs, the labyrinthine garden, the flooding river, urging decoding not with intellect, but with felt sense, journaling the symbol's somatic echo to unlock prophetic currents. We've traversed her unions, contradictions, and somatic secrets, unveiling layers that transform her from myth to marrow. Yet, these are but veils rent. Her true potency awakens in practice, where theory's flame meets the world's tinder. In the sections ahead, we'll forge tools from this forge, rituals to invoke her daily, steps to dance her paradoxes into embodiment. Until then, let her contradictions court you. In the ache of unmet longing, the fury of unvoiced truths, the hush of uncharted dreams. There, she waits, not as distant echo, but as the breath you are now drawing, inviting, inexhaustible, intimately yours. With the veils of her mystery lifted, the sacred feminine now beckons not from ancient friezes or whispered grimoires, but from the quiet altar of your own becoming, a force ready to infuse your breath, your movements, your shadowed corners with her liquid gold. She is no ethereal spectator. She is the artisan of embodiment, inviting you to practice her presence until it pulses as naturally as your heartbeat. These techniques, drawn from the well of esoteric lineages, are bridges from contemplation to conjuration, simple yet profound rituals to awaken her within, fostering healings that ripple through body, lineage, and cosmos. Begin gently, seeker, for her power amplifies intention. Approach with the reverence of one entering a lover's chamber, not a battlefield. First, cultivate her receptivity through the womb. Breath, a somatic invocation rooted in the Tantric arts of Kashmir Shaivism, where breath becomes the bellows stoking Shakti's inner forge. Sit in a space dimmed like twilight's hush, perhaps with a rose quartz nestled in your palms, its cool weight a talisman of her tender ferocity. Close your eyes and place one hand on your heart, the other curving low over your lower belly, the yoni gateway, that sacred basin where creation's waters pool. Inhale slowly through the nose for a count of 4, imagining a soft, indigo light descending from the crown, pooling in the pelvis like moonlight on still waters. Feel it expand, not with effort, but as an invitation, a blooming. Hold for 4, savoring the fullness, the subtle thrum of aliveness. Exhale through the mouth in a sigh of release, 4 counts again, visualizing the light radiating outward, dissolving tensions like mist before dawn. Repeat for 9 cycles, 3 sets of 3, honoring the triple goddess, maiden, mother, crone. This isn't mere respiration. It's communion, rewiring the nervous system from fight or flight's grip to her fluid. Yes. Practitioners report synchronicities blooming like night jasmine, lost opportunities resurfacing, intuitive nudges sharpening into clairvoyant arrows. If resistance arises, the mind's chatter, the body's clench, welcome it as her shadow play. Whisper, I receive you, and let the breath carry it downstream. Over weeks, this practice dissolves energetic armoring, inviting relational miracles, deeper intimacies, creative effusions that flow unbidden, as if the muse herself has taken up residence in your marrow. To weave her cyclical wisdom into daily rhythms, embrace the moon mirror ritual, inspired by the Celtic bards who charted fates by Selenic phases, a practice that aligns your inner tides with the cosmos' undulating hymn. Track the lunar cycle via a simple journal or app, marking new moon as her dark womb, time for composting intentions, and full moon as her luminous harvest. On the new moon, under veiled skies or imagined ones, gather symbols of release, a feather for fleeting thoughts, a stone etched with a grudge's name, wilted blooms for dreams deferred. In a circle of salt for boundaries' grace, light a single beeswax candle and speak aloud or inwardly. If words snag, the litany of letting go. I return to you, Great Mother, what no longer nourishes. Dissolve it in your cauldron's brew. Bury the offerings in earth or water, feeling the ground's receptive hum absorb your surrender. As the moon waxes, nurture seeds of becoming. Plant affirmations in fertile soil, literal or metaphorical, sow basil for abundance, or sketch visions of healed lineages on parchment. Culminate at full moon with a gratitude vigil. Arrange mirrors to catch her light, or a full-spectrum lamp in her absence. Gazing into your reflection not for vanity, but for soul recognition. Trace the face that stares back with oiled fingers, murmuring, I see you, wild one. Your power mirrors the spheres. This ritual counters modern disconnection, its phases a scaffold for emotional sovereignty, waning to purge codependency's hooks, waxing to magnetize aligned kinships. Challenges like doubt's fog. Counter with allyship. Pair it with herbal infusions, mugwort tea for prophetic dreams, to amplify her intuitive download. Over moons, expect harvests. Fractured bonds mending in unexpected grace, professional paths curving toward passion's pull, as her cycles remind you that timing is her secret sorcery. For embodying her relational alchemy, venture into the dyad of shadows, a paired practice echoing the Eleusinian dialogues, where two souls, or even your divided selves, mirror and midwife each other's unseen facets. Ideal with a trusted companion, yet potent solo via inner dialogue, it transmutes isolation into intimate initiation. In a shared space scented with myrrh for boundaries veil, sit facing one another, or your journal's blank page, at eye level, knees touching if consent allows, grounding the circuit. Begin with the invocation, palms pressed together at heart center, chant softly thrice. Weave us, weaver, reveal the threads unseen. Then, alternate turns. Speaker voices a raw truth. I fear my anger devours love, without interruption, while listener embodies her receptive chalice, eyes soft as lock waters, hands open on thighs, silently intoning, I hold you in the womb of all. After 5 minutes, switch, the listener reflecting back, not advice, but echoed essence. Your anger rises like a sacred storm, guardian of your heart's hearth. Close with mutual touch, a crown anointing with oil, or simply held gaze, sealing the exchange. In your mirror, I reclaim my wholeness. Solo, address your reflection or an empty chair, voicing the critic and the criticized in turn. This forges empathy's forge, her power in the holy pause between words, where judgments alchemize into understanding. Common obstacles, defensiveness's spike, vulnerability's vertigo. Breathe through them as contractions in labor. Her ferocity ensures breakthroughs, birthing forgiveness that spans generations. I've witnessed it shatter ancestral feuds, partners unearthing shared wounds, families reconvening after silences spanning decades, creativity surging as blocked channels flush clear. To ignite her erotic gnosis, explore the Rosefire Tantra, a solo or partnered rite from the veiled Vijnana, the 112 meditations where sensation becomes sacrament. Dim the chamber with crimson veils, anoint pulse points, wrists, throat, inner thighs, with ylang ylang oil, its fragrance a siren's call to the senses. Lie supine, spine undulating like a serpent's invitation, and begin the slow spiral. trail fingertips from crown to root, circling chakras with feather-light intent, awakening each as a blooming rose, root red for earth's claim, sacral orange for desire's tide, up to heart green, the center where eros meets agape. Pause at the pelvis, cupping its warmth, and intone the seed mantra, Aham Prema, I am divine love, vibrating it into the flesh until heat coils, not as climaxes chase, but as sustained simmer, her Shakti uncoiling in waves of yes. If partnered, mirror the touch, eyes locked in wordless vow, breaths sinking until boundaries blur in ecstatic dissolve. Culminate not in expenditure, but retention. Draw the energy upward on exhale, circulating it as luminous nectar through the microcosmic orbit, tongue to roof of mouth, sealing the loop. This practice alchemizes lust into luminosity, her hidden fire transmuting repression's ash into visionary fuel, art birthed in fevered sketches, innovations whispered in afterglow. Hurdles like shame's chill. Invoke her as Lilith, first wife untamed. Affirm, my desire is holy ground, letting friction birth friction's end. Persistent practice yields profound boons. Libido as life force, not drain. Magnetized attractions that honor sovereignty. Even somatic healings, as pelvic armors yield to pleasure's grace. Finally, to anchor her in the mundane, adopt the Veil Walker's Vigil, a daily micro-ritual blending Gnostic Sophia's spark with practical earthcraft, turning chores into charms. As dawn breaks or dusk falls, pause amid routine, mid-coffee brew or commute's hum, and invoke her triad. Touch earth, soil, floor, steering wheel, for grounding, whispering, root me in your body, Pachamama. Sip or breathe air deeply, intoning, fill me with your breath, unseen winds. Then, gaze at water, a sink's trickle, rain-specked window, affirming, flow through me, river of release. Infuse. An act of service. Stir honey into tea with clockwise spirals for sweetness drawn near, or weed a garden plot, envisioning tugs as uprooting inner thorns. This weaves her into the warp of hours, countering dissociation's drift. Challenges like busyness's blur yield to her reminder. Set phone chimes to moon hours for cues. Over time, it cultivates quiet miracles, resilience in storms, as her cycles attune you to flow, communal harmonies, drawing collaborators like moths to her flame, spiritual sovereignty, where synchronicities become the norm, not the exception. These practices are your grimoire made flesh, receptive breath, lunar mirrors, shadow dyads, rosefire rites, veil walker's vows, each a key to her unlocking. They promise not escape, but immersion, personal growth as souls ripening, awakenings that cascade into collective renewal, benefits as tangible as dawn's first blush. Yet, heed this, her power demands devotion's discipline. Sporadic dips yield ripples, immersed dives, tidal waves. When obstacles loom, cynicism scoff, fatigue's fog, return to her core. Surrender as strategy, vulnerability as valor. In her embrace, you don't just practice. You become the priestess, the alchemist, the wild river carving stone. Begin tonight, under whatever moon graces your sky. Her hidden power awaits not in perfection, but in your first, trembling yes. As our journey through the shadowed groves of her eternal dance draws to its hush, reflect for a moment on the tapestry we've woven together, the sacred feminine emerging not as a relic dusted from antiquity's shelf, but as the quicksilver vein threading through the marrow of your now. We've wandered the ziggurats where Inanna shed her veils, plumbed the Eleusinian depths of Demeter's aching bloom, and traced Sophia's fallen spark back to the Pleroma's embrace. We've unveiled her as the receptive abyss that cradles creation's roar, the cyclical sorceress spinning endings into inexhaustible beginnings, the relational alchemist transmuting solitude's sting into the honeyed weave of souls. Her paradoxes, virgin and crone, fool and fierce, have pricked our illusions, reminding us that her power thrives in the fertile friction, the holy error that births universes from a single sigh. And in the forge of practice, we've armed ourselves with breaths that bloom like lotuses in mud, moons that mirror our hidden harvests, dyads that dissolve the veils between us, and rites that kindle Eros into enlightenment's flame. This is no idle lore, seeker. It's the reclamation of a force exiled yet ever insistent, pulsing in the curve of your spine, the tide of your tears, the unspoken yearnings that haunt your midnight hours. In a world armored against her wildness, where algorithms dictate desire and conquest masquerades as progress, her hidden power offers the radical grace of return to the body's wisdom, the earth's rhythms, the intuitive undercurrent that logic alone can never chart. She heals not by erasure, but by integration, the ancestral wounds that echo in our rages, the creative droughts quenched by surrender's rain, the fractured collectives mended in her compassionate gaze. Imagine, then, the ripple, your quiet invocation stirring a neighbor's unspoken ache, your cyclical honoring sinking with a stranger's unspoken bloom, until the parched collective drinks deep from the well we've forgotten how to tend. This is her esoteric promise, the microcosm's quickening begetting the macrocosm's dawn, where patriarchal pyres cool to hearths of balanced flame. Yet, as the candle gutters low, let us confront the threshold's whisper. Awakening her demands not perfection's crown, but the humility of the seed, dark, unassuming, yet armored with destiny's decree. The contradictions will court you still, the ache of yielding when action screams loudest, the vertigo of vulnerability amid certainty's clamor. When shadows thicken, return to her core, receptivity as the boldest strategy, cycles as the map to mastery, union as the forge of the self. You've tasted her now, in the stir of these words, the echo in your chest. She is no longer hidden, but unveiled, her power a living invitation to live as the priestess of your own unfolding. So, rise from this circle, not as one who has learned, but as one who remembers, the ancient oath sworn in starlit wombs, the vow to weave her silk through the coarse weave of days. Tonight, under the moon's indifferent gaze, or the sun's insistent fire, perform one rite from our shared grimoire. Breathe into the basin of your being, mirror the light in another's eyes, or simply walk barefoot upon the earth, feeling her pulse reply in kind. Let this be your call to the wild, not to conquer the world, but to let it conceive through you, art from your hands, mercy from your lips, wholeness from your wounds. The sacred feminine does not save. She surges, a tidal reclamation that drowns the small self to birth the sovereign soul. And in that surging, know this profound truth. You are her vessel, her voice, her victory veiled in flesh. The world, long starved, hungers for your yes, the subtle alchemy that turns exile into eldering, fracture into family, void into the very stuff of stars. Dare to embody her, and watch realities bend, not in thunder, but in the soft inexorability of rivers reshaping stone. What worlds will you midwife, once her power flows unstaunched? The question lingers, a lover's breath on your neck. The answer, yours to dream into dawn. until our paths cross again in the mystery's maze. Walk in her grace, fierce and fluid, eternal and ever new. The hidden is no more. It hums in your veins. Honor it. Become it. The universe awaits your bloom.